Welcome back to Winners and Losers, everybody. Chris Hamill is in the hot seat. There's only one place to start, Hamster. Bring on the hay.
Oh, it's the Pookie party, isn't it?
It is. Fair play to him, mate.
He went off this weekend,
Yes.
and it went off in the Sunday Vibes comments. Let's check out some of the best of him, because you were getting dug out left, right and centre. FEA Sports petition for Joe to get R9 2002 World Cup haircut. If Pookie scores more than 5 goals, he's lowballed you there. Should we say 25 and you get the little ginger slither?
No.
Little cat's tongue at the front of your head. Nathan Baller said, don't think we'll see Joe next week if Pookie scores again.
I'll still be it. I'll still be it.
He's not fun, though. Shout out Pookie, yeah. We like to see him do well, don't we? Josh WG, Pookie lives rent-free in Joe's head. Is that the case?
Mate, fair play to Teemu Pookie. He's made me look a right mug 2 weeks into the season, and you've just got to respect him, haven't you? I'm just going to take the L and move on.
You won a bit of cheddar as well.
I did. I had £5 on him scoring a hat-trick at the weekend, so that went down pretty well.
Was that after he scored 2?
He banged 2. I thought, it's got to happen here. It has to happen.
Much less impressive when you go, yeah, I put that on when he scored 2 goals.
Stick a £5 on him getting the 3rd. He gets the hat-trick, and then what happened? I put that money on 3-2 Man City, Raheem Sterling first goal scorer. Cheers, VAR, because I also had Gabby Jesus last goal scorer.
Oh dear, are you in our losers section or what?
Either way, I'm definitely in the losers section. Teemu Pookie's made me look an absolute mug, and I respect it. I'm absolutely delighted for him now. I'm now firmly on the Teemu bandwagon. Yeah. I hope he scores 20 this season as I meet you.
And do you know who else is firmly in the bandwagon? Joe D. Shepherd, who sent the suggestion in, although we weren't short of suggestions. Well,
yes.
So a terrific hat-trick. Score Pookie. Score Pookie, saw Pookie take our top spot this week as they beat Newcastle 3-1, the Canaries, at Carrow Road. The opener, probably the best goal of the bunch for me. He's watched that come down with snow on it and tucked it away with aplomb, hasn't he?
It's a classic Teemu.
Different finishes. He showed a variation of finishing with each goal, and he looks like an absolute predator now.
I don't know what's happening.
Alien versus Pookie. That's going to be the next film.
Yeah, made me look such a mug.
Anyway, he doubled their lead in the second half, didn't he, before wrapping up the win with his hat-trick in the 74th minute. He's now got 4 goals in 2 games, leading the Premier League scoring charts. The first Premier League player in history to score 4 goals in his first 2 appearances in the competition.
Give me them L's. I'm just drowning in L's.
He's just claiming titles here. So he's up there, isn't he, with Raheem Sterling now on 4. John Joe Shelby getting the consolation goal, a very tidy finish as well. But this is all about Pookie, all right? It's all about Teemu. The 29-year-old, the first player to score a Premier League hat-trick for Norwich since Efan Okoku against Everton in 1993. Absolute fixture, that. His record is bloody outstanding.
It is. And do you know what?
It's just been a continuation of his championship form, isn't it? 44 goal involvements in 48
ridiculous
games.
I'm Team Teemu.
But he was helped by some absolutely abysmal Newcastle performances and defending. Let's hear from Steve Bruce, who was scathing.
We were simply disappointing and nowhere near good enough with and without the ball. We didn't do enough to influence a game, especially at this level.
The absolute state of Newcastle United, they are all over the place. Mind you, they do have a tragic record at Carrow Road. They haven't won there since 1994. Meanwhile, Daniel Farke.
Did I say that any slower?
I didn't really say that very, very slow. That's the year of my birth. Whilst Daniel Farke, by the way, is the first Norwich manager to win his opening home game since Mike Walker back in 1992.
All the stats.
Really throwing it back a bit. Let's just go straight into Newcastle, because we've talked enough about Teemu Pookie. I've held enough L's. Newcastle striker, £40 million, Joe Linton, not hit the ground running at all, has he? Obviously missing that sitter of a chance just before Norwich took the lead, and
the header.
Overall, just a not good afternoon. 2 shots, neither of them hit the target, dispossessed 4 times, more than anybody else on the pitch. Just 3 touches in the box. Exactly what we said before the season started was going to happen has happened. He's going to get no service. He's going to have to do it all himself, and he hasn't got the touch to do it.
No, I mean, at times it did look like he had tissue boxes on his feet. Minecraft
all over
feet.
the place.
He was just so angular.
I feel a little bit sorry for him, though, because it's just no service into him. It's a total mess at Newcastle United. Looking at that central midfield, you can see where the problems are. Isaac Hayden was all over the place on the weekend. 62% pass accuracy from the centre of midfield. That is unacceptable at Conference Premier level. Let alone Premier League level. Not good enough, and it doesn't get any easier, does it? because they've got to go to Tottenham on the weekend away. And they're going to get pumped there. I'm telling you now, absolutely pumped. Mind you, I did say Timu would only score 5 goals, and he's already scored 4. Shout out Timu Pukki, though.
62% is Michael McCubbin in the cage on a Thursday afternoon.
It is. It is. Actually, he's probably high 70s. 62% is mind-blowingly low for a central midfielder, by the way. Just not good enough. But anyway, we're here to talk about winners in this section. It's Timu. I'm now Team Timu. I've flip-flopped. He's going to score 22.
On to our losers then, where Captain Kirk 7-4-2 for his booting is off with Manchester City. A little bit harsh, especially given the context.
Yeah, I mean, they definitely should have been in our winners if it was not for VAR. We're going to come on to that later. But they absolutely pumped Tottenham on the weekend and somehow still didn't win the game, ending up 2-2 at the Etihad. Of course, they had 30 shots with 10 on target to Spurs' 3, and 3 is kind, by the way, because one of them was Harry Kane from the halfway line trying to score over the top of Ederson. So I think it's really 2 shots, by the way, both of them on target, and even then, Ederson's positioning for the Lamela goal, what on earth is going on there? There were times when Ederson was playing centre mid on the weekend, by the way. I don't know what was happening, and then he tracks back and he's all over the place for the goal, I have to say. But anyway, let's talk a bit more about the stats, because 22 of City's 30 shots came from inside the box.
That is phenomenal.
They were brilliant on the weekend. It just didn't have that final touch. Sterling, 6 out of 6 from inside the box. Jesus managed to get 4 shots from inside the box, despite coming on in, what, 70th minute? Something like that. Bernardo Silva had 4 from inside the box as well. And most of these were created by one man, Kevin De Bruyne, who was back to his best. Back to the brilliant KDB we know and love, pulling into those wide areas, making it really difficult for defensive midfielders to track him.
The assist for Aguero, goosebumps, because that is vintage KDB.
Yeah.
That is what he does better than anyone else in the world, that whipped-driven ball along the ground. Oh, stonk on.
There were a couple others as well where he cut it back and there was missed opportunities. Obviously, that beautiful floated ball for the Raheem Sterling header. 9 key passes for KDB on the weekend, which is just an astronomical number.
Teach me, Kevin.
So good. And Raheem Sterling back amongst the goals. He's going to be a real candidate for the Golden Boot this year, isn't he, when he gets into those positions, because he's constantly in and around the 6-yard box. That's his 4th goal of the season, of course, taking him level top scorer with Team Timu. Honourable mention as well to Eric Lamela, who somehow managed to get a goal and assist from just 1 shot and 1 key pass, and Lucas Moura, who of course borrowed somebody's Air Jordans, hanging in the air for 15 minutes.
Big man upstairs had him on a coat hanger.
Insane, having only been on the pitch for 19 seconds. But overall, Tottenham were poor on the weekend.
They were, and let's just look at some of those discrepancies with some hard, cold numbers going on to XG. Understat reckon this game should have been 3.23 to 0.11. And this is worth flagging, by the way, because 0.11 is the lowest XG a side has achieved, according to Understat's metrics, since Newcastle managed 0.04 versus Arsenal at the Emirates on April 1st. I mean, this was just, City just suffocated them, and to do it against the Pochettino side is immensely impressive. And this is why we say that City is still, you know, far and away the best side in the league, and that much further ahead than Liverpool, because they're doing this to the chasing pack, you know, not edging victories over Southampton. But anyway, Opta also had it down as a massive discrepancy. I think they had Tottenham down at 0.22, so slightly better than Understat. But still, the 0.278 difference is the largest positive XG by a Premier League team without winning since Crystal Palace versus Bournemouth on December 2017.
Deary me.
So 2 very roundabout ways of saying they should have smacked them up, really. Really bitter pill for City fans to swallow, because that's 2 consecutive Premier League games that's happened in now, and back-to-back games against Tottenham wherein VAR has gone against them. Yeah. Although by the letter of the law, all decisions correct. Let's visit the granular in this scenario in particular, because it's brushed Laporte's arm, it's changed direction of the ball, it's a free kick. However, if a defender does that, the attacking side does not get a penalty. They do not get the advantage, hence why Gundogan, hence why Kevin De Bruyne has come out on Twitter to say they don't understand this new rule because it doesn't favour the attacking side in football. which it generally should, right? Yeah. What are your thoughts on matters?
I'm a bit mixed on VAR. I was really pro VAR coming out of the World Cup, but my problem with it now is that it's not getting every decision right. Like this, by the letter of the law, correct, but they had to have had a penalty on Rodri in the first half. I look back to last week, Sheffield United's goal against Bournemouth. Billy Sharp shoots it, hits an attacker's hand, comes back to him, he puts it in again. That wasn't ruled out. So I understand there's going to be some teething problems. My issue is that we're having the same debates we had before VAR about whether or not it's the right rule or whether or not it's implemented correctly as we're having post-VAR, but we've now got a 3-minute delay and we've got some of the joy taken out of celebrations, particularly for fans in the ground. So I'm a little bit mixed on it. I think eventually it's going to be right, but for me now, it's just not quite there. And I don't like the new handball rule at all. I think to change the new handball rule, but not change the way offsides are viewed under VAR, I think is quite puzzling. And it just should always favour the attacker for me. Football's about entertainment, and the attacker should always be favoured. It should be the same with offsides, and it should be the same with handballs. But maybe this is just because I lost a bet on the weekend and it's pissed me off.
Well, no, we are in a scenario where consistency is still lacking, but now we have footage, now we have kind of definitive proof of each scenario on a case-by-case basis that the referee can visit in real time. Hopefully, you know, that'll provide the right tool to find that consistency. Like, it won't elude them like it might have done before when it was kind of subjective, when it was all based on the referee's opinion of matters. So I kind of expect it to be in a much more advanced place in 6 months' time.
Although, having said that, I was watching a Bundesliga show yesterday, and obviously the Bundesliga employed it a year ago now, so they've had a full season with it, and they're now unhappy with it, so have reined it back and are going to use it extremely sporadically, only for game-changing matters at times.
Yeah.
So I think if they've had to have a year and it's still not right, and they're going to rein back now, I'm concerned that in a year we're going to suddenly see the Premier League pull back and think, what were we doing for that 12 months?
Yeah, but we're just a year behind Germany in that regard, aren't we? In that, like, I suppose you have to arrive at those decisions as a league. Maybe we use the Bundesliga as a kind of case study, and that helps accelerate the changes that are made to VAR over here. But good, they're not just leaving it as is. They're good that they're fine-tuning it. Anyway, what do you guys think to VAR? Let us know in the comments below, because that's it. No more VAR chat, just onto the football.
Moving on to our final winner, it's Danny Ceballos. This one was sent in by Ash Ogan I02. I was at the game on the weekend. This kid is a bit special.
He's got it. We did say kinda, although it was pretty clear to see in all of his numbers in every season he's competed in, so I won't take too much credit. Yeah, the Real Madrid loanee absolutely starring on his home debut as Arsenal took all 3 points against a very competitive Burnley side, it does have to be said, leaving them second in the league table going to match day 3. And it was Ceballos who teed up Lacazette's opener with a near post corner just 13 minutes into the game. That was the Frenchman's first competitive start, so he'll be glad to get off the mark, and he's done extremely well considering he's been dragged to the ground as he tries to put it through the keeper's legs. Obviously succeeded. Well done to Laka. That's what we like to see, a bit of battle going down to the ground. You know, Ashley Barnes did his best to steal the show, let's say. Got his third goal of the season, took 5 shots, which was a game high. But Arsenal's new midfield maestro just bringing home the bacon. His numbers going forward, ridiculous. 3 shots, 3 key passes, 4 completed dribbles, pass accuracy of 92% from 70 passes, with 2 assists to boot. You're going to talk about his second one in a mo. On the defensive end, 3 tackles and interceptions too. Only second to Burnley's Eric Peters in that game. So he really was putting himself about. A new boy, Nicolas Pepe, a little shout out to him as well, because he didn't have the most sort of comfortable introduction to life in the Premier League against Newcastle last week, and he's settled much quicker than expected in his second game here. So Reece Nelson made way for him at half time.
Awful Reece Nelson.
I mean, the £72 million man completing 4 dribbles and 2 tackles when he came on. Reece Nelson, a big fat 0 in both those categories.
He tried to do too much.
Yeah, like you said, one of those dribbles, Nicolas Pepe just absolutely retired Ben Mee with a no-look nuts.
Oh, Lord. That was rude.
Yeah, turn him inside out into a terracotta warrior. Let's hear what Unai had to say about Nicolas Pepe.
Pepe's impact is very good. 45 minutes, he's with us only 2 weeks, and he needs more to fit.
Right, going back to Dani Ceballos, when I was watching him on the weekend, I was like trying to compare him to footballers I've seen before for Arsenal, and a lot of people around me were saying, oh, we've got like a little mini Cesc Fabregas here. Didn't think he was particularly Fabregas-y. I think the player I likened him to most is actually Santi Cazorla.
Yeah, he's not a deep-line playmaker, is he? Yeah.
The little flicks and tricks around the corner, like there was a lot of times where a Burnley player pressurised him in a really good zone and it was a step over or a body feint and he'd gone and it was into his dust or he was fouled. And I just thought he was so sharp so quickly, because a lot of players when they come to the Premier League, especially midfielders, struggle with the pace. And he just breezed through it, made it look so easy. And it wasn't particularly surprising. Obviously, came on as a sub, I think, first week against Newcastle, but still put in 17 pressures, which was pretty impressive. We are kind of seeing the Real Betis version of Dani Ceballos, a little bit more than the Real Madrid one. 5 tackles and interceptions, 2.7 dribbles, 1.3 key passes, doing absolutely
that's 15,
everything.
16, right? No, 16, 17.
Yeah, so he is doing absolutely everything yet again, and if he continues this form, I struggle to see where Mesut Ozil fits back into an Unai Emery system, and I also struggle to see where Lucas Torreira plays. As much as we love Lucas Torreira, Matteo Guendouzi very clearly Unai's #1 pick in that role.
Yeah, I mean, Joe Willock was in that double pivot against Burnley, wasn't he? So he's going to come in for him. But there's moments where Willock...
Do you think Willock and Guendouzi, to me, is very, very different to Torreira and Guendouzi?
Go on.
I think Willock likes to progress the ball a lot more than Torreira. I don't think Arsenal need Torreira alongside Guendouzi when you're playing teams like Burnley and you're looking to progress. Maybe Torreira plays against a bigger team, a Manchester City or a Tottenham or a Liverpool, when they're looking to break up play in midfield. But Torreira's a bit of a spare part against the lower sides, and you can afford to just play Guendouzi in that sitting role.
I mean, maybe, but he does win the ball in very advantageous areas, doesn't he, Torreira? Decent progressor, and maybe you don't need Ceballos doing as much defensive work if you've got Torreira in there, so it does free him up to be a more kind of natural 10 rather than a roaming 8.
Yeah, although Dani Ceballos, what he is really good at on the defensive end is pressurising in the right areas. I think it was for Aubameyang's goal to make it 2-1. He wins the ball in a great area high up the pitch, and I just don't think you necessarily need Torreira if Ceballos is going to do that and Guendouzi is going to cover him behind. But it remains to be seen. Let's talk a little bit about Burnley as well, because like you said, they were still in this game. They outshot Arsenal, didn't they? XG had it down as 1.3 apiece. They are the kings of the lump. I mean, it said it all when Ceballos came off and he was just going, what is that? Like, Burnley, all they do is hit the channels and cross the ball.
Well, it's Ashley Barnes is an absolute brick house, isn't
it?
And
basically what happens is, because the midfielders aren't that comfortable on the ball, they just hit it into the channel and Barnes chases and wins a foul or puts it into the box for Chris Wood. They took 18 shots on the weekend against Arsenal, twice as many as the Gooners from inside the box. Burnley, not notoriously heavy shooters, just 9.5 per game last season. So I think Sean Dyche will have been quietly pleased with the performance. They weren't expected to get a result there by any stretch. These aren't the games that he's going to want to be winning. And I think they can hold their heads high. But Dani Ceballos, doing an internship for a year at Arsenal, if they manage to get hold of him somehow, it's a miracle. I just think he's gone at the end of the year. Make the most of him. He'll be back at Madrid, starting over Modric or Kroos next season.
Madre mia.
Good player.
Last but not least, then we have Chelsea, and this comes from Blues Mohammed, and they really should have bloody lost.
Yes, somehow scraped away with 1 point. Frank Lampard still yet to win a game competitively as Chelsea manager. In fact, he became the first Chelsea boss since Rafa Benitez in 2016, failing to win his first 3 games as Chelsea manager. More worryingly, though, for me than the 1-1 was the performance. Second half, they were really, really poor. And this game has it down XG as 1.3 to 1.2 in Chelsea's favour, actually. But Leicester really disappointed they would have been coming away from that game not to take 3 points. You're going to touch upon them a little bit heavier. Chelsea, after the Super Cup loss midweek, didn't really change much. Same starting 11 except for Mason Mount coming in and Mateo Kovacic dropping to the bench. And it kind of paid dividends first 20 minutes. Mason Mount looked really energetic, got onto the back of Wilfred Ndidi in a really good area. Ndidi gave the ball away kind of sloppily and Mount took his goal perfectly. I think he scored in the opening day for Derby under Lampard, and he scored now for Chelsea under Lampard as well. In fact, I think he's the first English player to score under an English Chelsea manager since 1996. If you can tell us who that player was and who the manager was back in 1996, we'll give you a shout on Twitter. Let us know in the comments below. But
Brexit stat of the week.
There were some strugglers. Christian Pulisic, who I thought looked really lively in the Super Cup against Liverpool, pretty non-existent against Leicester on the weekend. Lost possession 18 times over the course of 90 minutes, which is not really good enough. And Lampard, after the game, was really not happy with his side's performance.
I wasn't very happy. We offered them too many chances to counter-attack. We didn't have enough calmness on the ball to keep the ball and move it and switch the play, and by doing that we allowed them right back into the game.
Yeah, I think Brendan Rodgers will be absolutely devastated not to come away with 3 points here, despite the XG, the aforementioned XG. I did put out a tweet saying that XG is a great tool to judge the quality of chances generated, but if you take that just in isolation away from the game, then obviously that doesn't account for the expected goals of missed opportunities, and there was plenty of them for Leicester here. After the first 10 minutes, Leicester were awful to start with. I actually think they went there and they were far too conservative. They paid Chelsea far too much respect in the sense that they set out with 2 holding midfielders, Hamza Chowdhury drifting out to the left, and as he continued to drift out to the left, I just thought, why not play Harvey Barnes and just leave Wilfred Ndidi at the base of midfield, because Leicester have got this. Once they'd settled, they pretty much had it. The rhythm of the game, the control of the game. They wrestled possession from Chelsea pretty quickly. And I think this will embolden a lot of clubs around 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th to go to Stamford Bridge and play a lot more positively. I mean, first half, yes, Leicester weren't really at the races, only 1 shot. Tweaked it, subsequently had 11 shots in the second half. And in second half, Tielemans continued to be ineffective. He probably could have dropped and controlled the game a little bit more, but kind of continued to press in that number 8 position. You had Ayoze Perez on the right, who very clearly wanted to play as a 10. He kept drifting in, he kept crossing wires with Tielemans, crossing wires with Maddison. Maddison, by the way, was absolutely superb second half, best player on the pitch. Although he did miss the game's clearest cut chance. He created 3 chances as well as taking home the man of the match mantle. Wilfred Ndidi, of course, making up for that first half error with a vital equaliser, an absolute thumping header, along with 7 tackles and interceptions, which we take for granted now. That's become
7 tackles and 4 interceptions.
Oh, 7 tackles and 4 interceptions, sorry. Yeah. We pretty much take those numbers for granted at this point. A really great performance from Sionku, aka Lord Farquhar, because I hadn't really watched him play, and in the opening 10 minutes, you could kind of sense the lack of composure, or
the lack of Maguire.
Yeah, well, the lack of Harry Maguire, the lack of kind of stepping out comfortably and confidently with the ball. Johnny Evans started to pick a few passes, which he's done quietly throughout his career. And Sionku, maybe a little bit unorthodox at moments, like sandwedging it over people's head in the corner for Hamza Chowdhury to pick up. But he really took up that mantle and grew into the game. A 90% pass accuracy, 3 aerial duels won. Just a really solid performance, along with 4 tackles and interceptions. The fact that Marco Brighton had to come on for Ayoze Perez, pretty telling in the sense that Ayoze Perez wasn't really creating from out wide. Ricardo Pereira was pretty much doing that.
Everywhere.
13 tackles he made. He was playing every position in that game. After the first 5-10, when they looked a little bit shaky, he was dominating that right-hand side and really taking the game to Emerson. So, like I said, I think the legacy of this game will be the middling clubs taking a lot of confidence from playing their brand of football, positive brand of football, at Stamford Bridge and not being too defensively minded. What do you guys think? 6th? Is that still what Chelsea should be aiming for? Will they be able to fend off Leicester, Everton, Wolves? Let us know in the comments below. That's it for this week's show. What else should people watch after this?
Go and watch Sunday Vibes yesterday, where I probably took the piss out of Timu Pukki yet again, because we shot that last Thursday. Or you can watch Stat Wars, the league. I think it was me versus James this weekend.
Getting the nod.
Hotly contested fight that I obviously didn't do too well in, but you can watch it yourself.
Spoiler alert. Extra Time is back this week. The Game's Gone Mad was live during the week if you feel starved of podcasts. So that's it from us. Bye.